Yesterday, the state government revealed the draft design details for its $40 million footbridge across the Torrens. The bridge is part of the grand plan for a riverbank redevelopment. Well, there's been a lot of media attention and fanfare surrounding the bridge. Leah McLennan looks at a less obvious but crucial piece of riverbank infrastructure, a potentially hazardous car park that will cost millions to fix.
It's a prime piece of real estate between Parliament House and the Festival Centre, but it's something of a wasteland, home only to a once controversial, now run-down artwork. Earlier this year, 7:30 South Australia spoke with Family First MP Robert Brokenshire about his quest to find out whether the Festival Plaza featured in the grand plans for the riverbank redevelopment. What he's uncovered goes much deeper than the plaza's surface and right into the car park beneath.
Well, I'm actually getting concerned now about safety, because whilst they've got jacks there, which I might add have been there for months now with no activity, there was some preliminary and urgent work done several months ago and then some jacks put in the worst parts of the car park. But to me it's at a point now where it's a safety issue.
Now Robert Brokenshire has a pile of Freedom of Information documents. Amongst them is a detailed 2010 report on the state of the car park and plaza. The report found the car park needed urgent repairs.
And so here you can see a classic example of the deterioration. Once it rains, it just starts to ooze out of there, and clearly no concrete block can retain its strength.
When the Festival Plaza was built, it included a waterproof membrane that should have protected the car park from water leaking through. According to the report, that membrane has never worked, and over the last 30 years, water has been leaking through, causing the structure to deteriorate, to the point that some areas need extra supports.
If those jacks weren't there and that got any worse, that slips down, it's the start of good night to the whole structure.
A risk assessment found pieces of concrete the size of dinner plates could have fallen away and may have resulted in a possible serious injury or death. It recommended that all exposed concrete should be tested every 6 months to avoid this risk. It also found a low risk that the structure itself could fail, something that concerns Robert Brokenshire.
Well, the worst case scenario is that we have an extreme weather condition and that there are issues there that haven't been covered in that strategy but identified as of serious risk as they stand, and we have a car park that caves in.
It's where MPs and parliamentary staff park, along with the public attending events at the Festival Centre. The car park is run by the Festival Centre and is ultimately the responsibility of the Arts Minister John Hill. Arts SA says there is no risk to people using the car park and it is consistently being tested and maintained.
It's a bit like a shower cubicle that's had water penetration behind the tiles, and some of those tiles will start to fall away. But it doesn't mean the walls of your shower are about to collapse. It's to do with the concrete that is sitting around the structure, and so we inspect for that and we literally chip away any of the drummy concrete.
But a cost assessment found it's taxpayers that could end up taking a bath. To make the car park safe through maintenance work, such as removing loose concrete, would cost almost $60,000. But even with those works, some of which have already been completed, the car park will still eventually need to be remediated or completely rebuilt. If remediation was begun last year, the assessment found it would cost $11.5 million. A total rebuild would cost $29 million. The longer it's left, the more those costs escalate, up to more than $34 million for a rebuild if it's left until next year. Also in the FOI pile, Robert Brokenshire says this document shows the State Cabinet would only approve the much cheaper Make Safe option while it waited for a decision regarding the riverbank redevelopment.
The plaza is the roof of the car park, and it's almost impossible to contemplate the redevelopment of the car park without also thinking about the redevelopment of that very, very significant public space. It's a public space that's underutilised at the moment, we all know that. There's great private sector interest in the car park in particular, and there are some opportunities there for the private sector which they've begun to talk to us about through that expression of interest process. We'd like to take that a step further, I guess.
But with a $40 million bridge planned, Robert Brokenshire believes that money should be spent on an area that he says needs it much more urgently.
I can't understand why we're going to now build a footbridge to the stadium that is nothing like what the government showed us as legislators when they wanted us to vote for this stadium. They're going to spend money there that I think, frankly, needs to be held back now, and they need to rebuild the plaza area and the car park. Otherwise, they're going to waste millions of dollars.
Leah McLennan with that story.